Today we are talking Twisters, the new anticipated summer blockbuster released by Lee Isaac Chung. I got the chance to see this movie a few days ago. Fair warning, this is not going to be a particularly comprehensive review. The reason for that is I am waiting to really review and talk about this movie after I see this movie in 4DX. I'm in Sacramento, and guess what? The one 4DX theater that we have, the projector broke. Quite literally. The week where there is a movie that people actually want to see in 4DX, because typically I think 4DX is a really stupid experience if we're being fully honest. I've seen a few movies on it. The only one that I thought was passable on 4DX was Gun Maverick. And now Twisters, I'm seeing all these memes, I'm seeing all these images going around social media, TikTok, about how awesome of an experience seeing Twisters in 4DX is. And of course I'm like, okay, well, let's try that movie in 4DX. And guess what? Not available right now. And then when it is going to be back up and running, Deadpool and Wolverine is coming in. So I don't know when I'm going to get the chance to see this movie in 4DX. I really want to, but that's why I'm waiting to do a really comprehensive review after that experience. The reason I'm waiting is because that is the most pure way to watch Twisters, because this is a dumb, fun summer blockbuster movie, the type we don't get anymore. This is a disaster movie about good-looking people chasing Twisters, and that's all I wanted this movie to be. And guess what? It delivers at the highest of highest levels for bang for your buck. I had a blast watching Twisters, and specifically, I think this movie gives you everything that you would want from a movie. In terms of performances, Glen Powell, superstar. I've been saying it now for a while. Ever since I saw Gun Maverick, I just knew that is a movie star. He continues to deliver. I think he's great in this role as the ultimate cowboy. God, he looks really good soaking wet. Just fully being honest, he is a very handsome man, and this movie understands the fundamental part/aspect of filmmaking where if you get Glen Powell in a tight white t-shirt, drenched in rain, you've got something special. And that's what this movie understands. It's like I said, that's the kind of intellectual level that I had watching Twisters. This is just a movie about big budget special effects, tornado, destroying, and people chasing it, and the thrill and adrenaline that goes into this type of world. And I had a great time with this movie. Is this movie the most intellectually engaging movie that I've seen this year? Not by a long shot. Is this movie some of the most fun that I've had in a movie theater this year? Oh my God, yes. I had a blast with this movie, and everything comes together and works for this movie besides the performance of Glen Powell, which I find pretty strong. I think everyone else is also working their best in this movie. Daisy Edgar-Jones, who is an actress that I am not the biggest fan of, especially after she did Where the Crawdads Sing. I will admit, I thought she was much better in this movie. The accent work is hit or miss at times. I noticed that coming in, but her chemistry with Glen Powell is very good in this movie. I think that is the thing that is most needed for her to succeed in this movie, and she delivers that aspect of the movie very well. Also, she's a scientist, so she just has to deliver a lot of science mumbo-jumbo in this movie. Does any of it make sense? Again, doesn't really matter. She delivers it well enough that I just bought in, and they could kind of yada yada over some of the big science scenes in this movie. Again, that aspect of the movie doesn't really matter. Anthony Ramos is also in this movie. I thought he was also very capable in this role. You bought into all these dynamics, and those are the three that really are the main players in this movie, with Glen Powell and Daisy Edgar-Jones being the clear stars of this movie. So that aspect that I bought into right away. Special effects bought into. I think this movie looks really good. This is a movie that has a high school budget, and it's visceral. In the movie theaters, it's loud. It's so loud that even not seeing this in a 4DX theater, my chair was shaking. There is some very abrasive, very scary tornado imagery in this movie. This movie is not always perfect. There is this aspect involving the Anthony Ramos character, this corporation that he essentially is answering to. This element of the movie doesn't always work for me. I get what they're trying to do, essentially show how a corporation can come in, can basically at someone's weakest moments capitalize off others, sorrow and pain and just life being destroyed in that moment. Again, I understand the intent to it. Doesn't always work. What it does work to service is then bringing Glen Powell to a different light, getting the audience to root more for him, and understanding why Daisy Edgar-Jones' character would fall for Glen Powell and his renegade band of tornado wranglers, as they're called. That is where the film actually does work to that story, but it is very much a means to an end to kind of redeem / nobilify one of our major characters. So I talked about the special effects, which I think work very well. I talked about the acting that I think works really well. Let's talk about Lee Isaac Chung as a director real quick. He's coming off Minari that got him, I think he won an Academy Award for screenplay for this movie, but I at the very least know he was nominated for multiple awards, including Best Picture for Minari. This is, again, also kind of a story. What I really liked about Twisters is this is a story, I believe it's set in Missouri, but please do not quote me if I'm wrong. Apologies if I'm misremembering that. But this is a story set in the Midwest that the imagery / characters / way that this world is brought to life made sense to me, and I thought it was engaging. It does feel like a part of life that I don't get to see, being on the West Coast. It was able to just bring me into this part of America, make me understand the characters, the way they live, the differences in literal culture, and the fact that they have, here in California, we have a relationship to earthquakes. Here they have this relationship to tornadoes. How in some ways life revolves around that, or at least a lot of your life goes around planning for this inevitable / tragic thing to possibly happen. Like, that part of the movie I thought worked really well, and that's where I thought Lee Isaac Chung really just understood geography in this movie and how to bring these small towns to life and capture them very beautiful. There's a really good rodeo sequence in this movie that I think does a great job at delivering at the culture and ideas, and it's a very clearly heartfelt message that this movie has. It definitely has a care and want in how this film interprets it. Makes sense because Lee Isaac Chung is from Denver, Colorado. He does have, I'm reading his Wikipedia right now. He grew up on a small farm in rural Lincoln, Arkansas. Like, this guy does clearly have a love and understanding of this slice of American life. And he shows that in this movie. And I think those little delicate details here and there throughout really make for something special throughout while you're watching Twisters. I really want to commend what Lee Isaac Chung does with this movie, because he is an unproven director in the sense that he hasn't directed a movie of this scale yet. Like, I know Minari was a big hit with the Academy and critically. That doesn't mean it was like this huge commercial hit. I mean, I'm sure the Academy Awards got it some commercial recognition, but this isn't someone that is a household name. This is someone that's got to direct a few smaller episodes of The Mandalorian. He did a good job with those episodes, but it wasn't like the clear cut, oh yes, this guy is going to just knock this movie out of the park. And he knocked this movie out of the park. And you see how he is able to capture the Amblin Entertainment feeling to this movie, because this movie does come from Amblin Entertainment. That's Spielberg's company that released this movie in the 90s. It does have some of that feeling of wonder and chasing, like literally in this movie, storm chasing, that Spielberg always had. It had this interest in science. It had this interest in just the larger world and scale and scope. And that's what Lee Isaac Chung does, while keeping it centered on characters going through tough times and how they better one another and how they love. It does have that classic, I don't want to call it Spielberg romanticism, but it does have that kind of just charm that made Steven Spielberg who he was, the king of blockbusters, especially in the 90s. I think it's a really wonderful touch that Lee Isaac Chung is able to do, because he never just works off nostalgia in this movie. This movie has a few callbacks to the original Twister film, that specifically in imagery and more probably similar in plot structure, but it's not like it's this a ton of like cast members just coming in left and right where you're like, oh, I recognize them from the first Twister movie. Oh, that's that person. Like, that's not what this movie is. This is a complete standalone in the sense that you do not need to see the first Twister film to understand or watch this movie or enjoy this movie. It's not even a requirement. Maybe will make your experience more fun and you'll catch maybe a few moments, but it's moments. I would literally say this movie spends maybe 10 to 20 seconds where if you watch this movie and you knew the first Twister movie like the back of your hand, then you'll go like, oh, I recognize that. That's about it. That really is about the extent to which this movie works and operates as a sequel to Twister. It is really a sequel to Twister in name only, and I think that worked much to this film's benefit. You didn't need to have any of the callbacks. It worked as an experience and as a spiritual sequel, capturing a lot what the first film does with much better technology, and that's all things that I want to commend this movie. I want to see how this movie plays in 4DX. I think this could be an actual future for Hollywood and movie studios and theater chains to actually really explore 4DX and make disaster movies, make movies like this that work to this degree, that actually make audiences seek out a higher price ticket price to go see this and experience Twisters in a 4DX movie. And the honest truth is, Hollywood just isn't making these types of movies that can do that. Twisters is uniquely a movie capable of doing it, just largely due to its disaster impact. You can get the wind, you can get the feel, you can get the shaking, you can get the water. You can really do everything with the 4DX experience here. And I think that is going to be a blast to explore and talk about. So I do look forward to doing that, hopefully in the future. As a movie, this is a perfect throwback to this 1990s disaster movie, and that's all I needed this movie to be. Is this going to be one of my 10 best films at the end of the year? Probably not. Is this going to be a movie that I can look back on and say, I had a really great time in the theater and I just kind of enjoy watching this movie? Then yeah, that's probably more of where I will align with this movie. For what this movie does, and I think that's important, for being a throwback to the 1990s disaster movies, I think there's no better way that you could have gotten this movie done. I think it gives you everything that you'd want out of this movie. That's how I felt walking out. Is this the best movie that I saw? Is this Top Gun Maverick, which I think some people were starting to, draw those lines together? Like, this is going to be the next big experience. Like, this is the next big movie that really just reshapes Hollywood and everyone's going to be trying to basically replicate it. No, it's not. Is it a movie that gives a lot of excitement and a lot of summer fun? Absolutely. And that's why I can recommend Twisters. I would be shocked how many people go into this movie and walk out without having some bit of fun. This movie is almost undeniably fun in that way. And I think Twisters is a great time in the movie theater, loudest possible auditorium you can. And if you're near a 4DX theater, let me know, because I really want to experience it, people. I really want to hear what people think about this as a movie, as an experience. Let me know in the comments below. But anyway, I am giving Twisters, for what it is, a successful disaster movie, 3.5 out of 5 stars.